Hello everybody and welcome to That's Football. We're back for another Euros watch-along. It's Italy versus Switzerland, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome somebody I've been on his podcast a few times, and we've spoken a few times about doing something together, and what better game to do it than Italy versus Switzerland. Chelsea fan Alex Goldberg, but also podcasts around Serie A. So Italy would probably be a club that you know most about out of the Euros, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, still England. Probably just because Chelsea have such a huge tie to England, as most Premier League clubs do. But yeah, secondary, Italy. As you know, I mean, I've been doing a Serie A podcast longer than I've been doing a Chelsea podcast. So in some way, shape or form, it was appropriate that you asked me on. So it's great to be here.
What are your thoughts? We were just talking about Wales just before we came on air there. Italy were very impressive against Turkey. But I suppose the other thing we said was that, God, Turkey are not the team many people thought. Do you think? What do you think about Italy ahead of this game? Probably going to be favourites, but do you think that we may need to take in what I call the Turkey tax, which is nothing to do with Christmas? It's to do with, if Turkey are really bad, are Italy as good as we thought?
Well, it's a great question, but I so much think that tonight is where we'll learn a lot more about Italy. And I'm not saying Switzerland is now all of a sudden France, but because we just saw Turkey once again kind of lay an egg, excuse the pun, I don't even know if turkeys lay eggs, actually. So let's just digress from there. But since we saw Turkey once again be really, really poor, let's see how Italy look against Switzerland. Once again, Switzerland's not a great side, but they're formidable. You know, they got some decent players, and they're just, more importantly, not Turkey. So also, I mean, Mark, I kind of maybe almost disrespected Italy when people asked me to do my predictions. They said surprise team, and I said Italy, just because Italy's missed the last World Cup, and they're not at the same standard. But then I see this stat that they haven't lost a game in a while. So, or something defensive stat. Like, they actually have been decent when they've been together. I think it's a defensive one, actually. But, you know, we'll learn a lot more about them tonight, I think. Because in that Turkey game, Italy looked great. Turkey looked awful. Both can be true. In fact, I mean, how many times was Spinazzola open on that left-hand side? Who's not even the most amazing player. Turkey was just shambles in defense. So let's see if Italy can get a couple goals. If they only get one, how much do we really learn about them?
Yeah, exactly. And I think with Italy, the thing that really impressed me is I don't really get to watch a lot. I'll put my hands on my head. I'll put my hands up and say that I will refuse to watch England in international friendly time. I'm not a big fan of the international break, but I do like the tournaments, and so I certainly don't watch Italy. But what I did like about them, that you know, I've always loved Italian football, Italia 90, and then Sunday football, we used to get Italian football and things like that. But I will say Italian football, they can be quite frustrating to follow the Italian national side because it's quite pragmatic football. But what I liked about the team on Friday is that they've still got that defensive shield, but they've also got this almost Man City approach. Maybe that's just the Man City way, where let's defend well, but let's press, let's move the ball quick, and let's create chances. And I'm hoping that's we're going to see more of that from Italy tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, they're not the sexiest team, let's be real. But I do think that when you have players in the midfield, I mean, Jorginho, obviously, we know his role for club or country. And if he's playing well, he can dictate everything. But I think maybe even more exciting from an Italy perspective is Barella and Locatelli, who had a great season. I mean, both of these players, honestly, you know, I don't want to sound like a Premier League snob, but like a couple of years ago, Barella was a little bit on the radar for Premier League clubs if they wanted to acquire him, but now a lot more so with Locatelli and Barella both doing really well in Serie A. So I think even away from the Italian national team, players like that have kind of at least hit the radar of maybe your casual Premier League fan. So maybe they give Italy hope to be a little, not more sexy, but just have a little bit more to their game. Then again, I mean, I still expect a really pragmatic approach.
The Italian team, just to confirm it: Donnarumma, Di Lorenzo, Bonucci, Chiellini, Spinazzola, Barella, Jorginho, Locatelli, Berardi, Immobile, and Insigne. So the same front six as we had in the opening game against Turkey. And then Switzerland: Sommer, Elvedi, Shah, Akanji, Mbabu, Frula, Xhaka, Rodriguez, Shaqiri, Zverevic, and Embolo. So disappointing for me that Zakaria is on the bench again. Obviously, no Verratti or Pellegrini, and they're not on the bench either. So I don't know how they're doing for injuries, but already missing 2 games. Chiesa, Belotti, Benedeschi, and a few others on the bench.
You wanted Zakaria in there because you're on a DM watch, aren't you?
Well, we're going to talk about a DM watch because obviously, we've had chats on your podcast before about Declan Rice and Manchester United, but no, I do think I do like the look of Zakaria, and I think, but it's not like I want United to sign him. I want him to play tonight so I can have more of a look at him, if that makes sense. But some people would say go and get Locatelli. I mean, he will leave, and I can never pronounce the name very well, Sassuolo or whatever it is. But he will probably be like Barella when he left and went to Inter Milan. I would imagine he will stay in Italy.
Yeah, I feel like Locatelli is probably going to go to Juve. I'm not saying that on an inside source, but that just kind of seems like a common next step. Like he did really well for Sassuolo. Now he's going to go to Juve, and they probably could use Locatelli, Juve at this point. So what's funny to me quickly, the Switzerland team, it's pretty much just a Bundesliga team. I mean, almost all those names, almost, are Bundesliga players.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it like that. I mean, look, I think, what's your score prediction for this? Because I think Switzerland played well. I actually think they should have beat Wales, but they just couldn't finish, which I think has been the problem with a few teams in the Euros so far. Good teams who don't really have a goal scorer. Do you think Italy will make light work of them, or do you think it might be a little bit closer?
No, I think it's going to be closer. I don't know if Italy can get 2 goals, but I'll go 2-1. I do think Italy are finally going to concede a goal, because I do think Switzerland have enough to score a goal against them. What's crazy is, like, how long have Bonucci and Chiellini been part of this defense for obviously club and country? And I'm not saying that they're, totally done. Of course they're not. They're actually a huge reason why obviously Italy's super structured. But, I think this Swiss team can put a goal past them. I like Breel Mbolo, by the way, for Switzerland, who's going to be up top. Maybe I thought he was going to be a bit better when he was a little younger a couple of years ago. He had a big injury. But I think Switzerland have enough to get a goal, but I'll go 2-1 Italy.
2-1 to Italy. I'm going to go with. I am actually going to go for. I don't think it was that much. Yeah, you sort of probably. I'm going to go 2-0 Italy. I think they'll get the clean sheet. But it's interesting about Mbolo because he was impressive in the last game. He was linked to United probably 5 years ago. He's still quite young now, but the problem with Mbolo is what is he? Because his actual goal scoring record isn't good enough. Right. Is he just a striker that's a handful? Which, to be honest, the striker who's a handful is always admirable. But, Drogba was a handful, and Drogba scored a lot of goals as well, and I think that's the thing that would prevent him from maybe getting that Premier League or big move.
Yeah, I mean, look at Sweden the other day. Someone like Alexander Isak, like he's going to be a much more hot prospect right now than Mbolo. But, yeah, I mean, from my perspective, Chelsea, we can't go out and sign like a Breel Mbolo. Like that's how Chelsea get into trouble. It's when you don't buy the top strikers and you think you can buy a bargain striker and hope that the potential fills out. So like I like Mbolo, but he's certainly not someone that I would want my club to sign yet. With that said, for international football, he could do quite well.
Yeah, I do. We will get into some of the Chelsea chat during the game. Hopefully there'll be some, well, not hopefully. Hopefully we'll see an absolute classic. But I'm sure that there will be some lulls in the game where we can bring in some of the Chelsea chat, especially around Declan Rice, because I think that he is a player that Manchester United want. But I suspect Chelsea will win that race if they want to win that race. I think that's the most pragmatic way I could put it. But you might have some thoughts on that. So I'm going to go 2-0. Alex is going to go 2-1 to Italy. Of course, Wales winning earlier puts them onto 4 points. If Italy win this, it basically puts Wales and Italy through. Turkey, I would imagine, are going to be... I mean, just on Turkey, did you have much expectation of them coming into this tournament? I mean, they were meant to be the dark horse, but probably the worst team in the tournament. And I've seen everybody.
Oh, so far, they've been the worst. They've been the worst. Their performance against Italy was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it was awful. Like, I know it was a 3-0 score, but honestly, and I know you can say this after every game, it should have been 5-0, 6-0, 7-0. It really should have been 5-0 or 6-0 to Italy against Turkey. And I'm not that familiar with their fullbacks, but when you have Demiral and Soyuncu as your center back tandem, like, how are you that bad? So I didn't pick them as a dark horse, but I certainly didn't think they'd be this bad, Turkey. So, yeah, I mean, they should just go home. I mean, maybe... I know some third-place teams can make it if you have a good goal differential, but there's no way Turkey at this point can be even one of those third-place teams, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that I don't know whether you saw the Wales game, but Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale basically played the same pass 3 times, and Turkey's defence didn't figure it out. And they're good defenders, as you said, but they there's just something not right. But I've seen that many a time. You almost don't want to be the dark horse of a tournament. I always think of the Ivory Coast in a World Cup a few years ago, and they were going to be absolutely brilliant, and you know, they didn't live up to that expectation. But I agree with you. I actually said I called Italy a dark horse of the tournament. It's lovely to see Italy playing in blue as well, because they played in white the other night. But yeah, I called Italy a dark horse of the tournament. Apparently, you can't do that because it's Italy, but I think you can. It's a long time.
I offended a lot of people. Like when I said that, you know, we had a lot of historians get really mad at me because they're like, come on, you don't know Italy's history as a nation? Of course I know it, but I'm trying to be really pertinent to like the current time in football. And you should view it as a compliment if I called them a dark horse, because I think they're back on the come up. So, you know.
Yeah. And it's a while since they've won anything, and they weren't in the last World Cup, like you said. And they're a team. They're a team with a lot of players around the same level without having the superstar of an Mbappe or an Erling Haaland or a Van Dijk or anything like that. They've got a lot of good players, and as we know, Alex, you know, a team is more powerful than an individual, and I think Italy is certainly a team to keep an eye on. And also, if they get through this group, which I think they will, we just kicked off, by the way. If they get through this group, then I think that they've got they should get a relatively good draw to the quarterfinals, and then you're laughing then.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And you're right about the team aspect. Like, look at players like Berardi and Lorenzo Insigne. Lorenzo is a bit older, but still, those are players at some point in time that people thought might get a big move. Like Berardi was on the map for Sassuolo not too long ago, and he stuttered a bit, and people still thought he was going to go to Juve. I think they had a clause at one point in time, and Berardi's just been at Sassuolo. And Insigne, I mean, he is part of Naples. Like, he's even got the tattoo on the back of his calf, like of him as a little boy looking outside their stadium, wishing to play there one day. But still, he was a player at one point in time. Some even Premier League fans thought, "Oh, I want Lorenzo."
He's been around a long time. Yeah. He'll definitely been linked to Chelsea at some point. I guarantee you.
I'm sure.
Yeah, but they are. I mean, Insigne and Immobile are two strikers that are actually, you know, if they're not in their early 30s, they're in their late 20s, aren't they? They've been around a long time, and.
Well, on Immobile, I don't know if people know this, but Mark, I'm sure you run into this with your club, like just listening to the fan base when maybe your striker's not going well and they see a striker somewhere else score a goal, they just immediately are like, sign this guy, sign this guy. I mean, it happens all the time. Immobile, I've run into that with Chelsea fans, but I think we need to remember that mentality of a striker is just as important, especially coming to the Premier League. And I'm not saying Immobile has a bad mentality, but if people remember, he was at Dortmund for a little bit and he didn't do well. He didn't do well at all. Comes back to Italy and he's been amazing for Lazio. But I remember reading something from someone at Lazio saying the reason why he was doing so well is everything was set up for him. Home life was comfortable. His striker coach was comfortable. He liked the manager. So you got to remember, like, he might be great at Lazio and maybe for Italy, but you move him to England, it could be totally different, like it was for Morata at Chelsea.
There's Chelsea on the break here. It's Berardi, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And they made the tackle there. Jorginho playing. Sorry, let me just sink in because people always want to know where I'm on because I haven't got a timer on. So 2 minutes 15. Sorry. I'll start again. 2 minutes and 20 seconds, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Jorginho, Chelsea player. Alex, you're a Chelsea fan. He's playing in that role today, sort of the glue between the back line and the midfield. You a Jorginho fan? Because I know where I'm going to lead into this, Declan Rice. But Jorginho, are you a fan?
Man, what a polarizing player, especially if I'm speaking about Jorginho. Because, Mark, not to bore you with what the Chelsea fan base is like, but if you're not a Jorginho stan, like if you're not a massive fan of Jorginho, you pretty much get called a hater of Jorginho. I think he's a good player, not a great player. I like him. I don't love him. I think he's got great character. Like, he's a likable guy. I think he's actually shown a lot of toughness throughout his years at Chelsea. He got a lot of stick this first season when Sarri was manager. I mean, he got booed by the home faithful, if you will. And really, they were booing Sarri, but Jorginho was the scapegoat. And I think, you know, he's one of those players with a really low floor because his athleticism is almost non-existent. But he really can overcompensate for his lack of athleticism with his IQ. You know, he can dictate tempo. He obviously sees the game pretty well. So more often than not, he's a good player. But when he has a bad game, it is really, really bad. And usually when he has a bad game, his whole team has a bad game. But you know what? He showed up for Chelsea in some huge games. So, I do think his character wins out more often than not. But like I said, I think he's a good player, not a great player.
I actually like him, and I think maybe that's because I've got McTominay and Fred in our midfield. But he would, and also I always use because I know Jorginho can be quite divisive. So I always say Jorginho and Alan at Everton. That type of a player is, and look, I'd like a player with a much higher ceiling than those two. But ultimately, I guarantee you, if United signed Jorginho in the summer or they signed Alan in the summer, you'd see a very different Manchester United, because you'd have a player who can patrol his back four, take the ball off the back four, and feed the attack. And United don't have that. So I'm actually quite positive about Jorginho, but that's because we just don't have a midfielder who can do that job.
Sure. You're also, by the way, speaking about two players that were pivotal for Maurizio Sarri at Napoli, Alon and Jorginho. And in fact, they actually fit each other really well. Like Alon was the guy next to Jorginho on the right, usually in a midfield three, who was really just doing a bit of everything. And Jorginho was, as people say, the regista. So, yeah, I mean, you guys definitely could use a little help in the midfield. So either player probably would upgrade your midfield. I think if you guys got Jorginho, and we're just obviously completely speculating here, but I think the main thing he would bring is just to bring leadership within the midfield, which you very well could use.
Yeah, 100%. So Italy just pinging the ball around here. And again, look, I've got to say, we're only 5 minutes in, but this is actually a joy to watch with Italy, because so many years, and actually they're in here. This could, oh no, keeper's got it. But I've watched Italy for so many years, and defensively very good, move the ball around, very pragmatic. But already in this first 5 minutes, there is a zippiness to the way that they're moving the ball around, speed, looking to make things happen. And I'd applaud Mancini for that, because it's probably the one way I've wanted to see Italy play for about 20 years. And it's nice to see that he is, getting them to zip that ball around. As I said, I think they're almost like the international Man City. In the way that they're defensively very good, but they look to press and harry and move the ball quickly. So hopefully that will continue. Switzerland not really got going yet.
Pep wanted Jorginho once upon a time. So
yeah, he did. Yeah.
Comparison makes sense.
Alex Goldberg, if people don't know who it is, he's got his podcast. What's the name of your podcast, Alex? And I've been on it. The byline. I nearly said, I didn't want to say here we go, because I know that's completely wrong, and that's somebody else. But,
that's Fabrizio Romano's.
That's Fabrizio Romano, who has been on your podcast, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
But no, it's a fantastic podcast. And you probably might not know who Alex is, even though we share the same first 4 letters of the surname, although that's probably his real name. Chelsea fan, big Chelsea fan, and a fantastic podcast, and very, very popular on Twitter with his 60 seconds. Do you still do your whole 60 seconds on this? Because that was always very popular.
Yeah, that was the beginning. And listen, I love doing that. But Mark, I think maybe you've experienced this. I think when your account gets to a certain following, it's just a bit harder to do that freely. Now, it's not that I'm scared to give my opinion, but I just think the podcast is a better way for me to give my authentic and raw opinions. I just don't have the time to get into battles on Twitter every day, because it's just such a divisive platform. But I will every once in a while. I'll throw up a Twitter video for old time's sake.
Yeah, it was one of those things that I'm very against. And although I probably did a couple, it's very much your thing. And I was like, that's a very good idea. And it's one of the things I look at it and go, oh, I wish I'd thought of that. So it was good. We're 7 minutes and 30 seconds in. If anyone wants to sync, we're just coming up for 7 minutes and 35 seconds in. I've got to bring Declan Rice in, because Italy are passing the ball around the back four at the moment. Although Spinazzola, who I thought was fantastic the other night. Actually, Spinazzola I got into a bit of trouble, Alex, and everybody watching, because I was moaning about England putting Kieran Trippier at left back because he's got no left foot. And people were saying, well, Spinazzola's got he's right-footed, but he's one of those players that maybe he's predominant foot is right, but he can definitely use his left.
Yeah, I think he's just a bit more used to playing on the left side than Trippier. And I'm not saying Trippier hasn't played there before, but like Spinazzola, I feel like has often been termed like left wing back, left mid. Like he has played a lot on that side. And if you just push up a little bit more, Mark, and I know you know this, then the fact that you're not left foot dominant doesn't matter as much. But Trippier really was playing like a real left back position the other day. Like he was, Kyle Walker was a right back and Trippier was a left back. And I'm not saying it was shambolic but I just think it was a bit different from how Italy set up. Like Spinazzola was really almost in a left wing spot for that whole game against Turkey, whereas Trippier was playing more of a left back role, which, by the way, I don't want to go away from this game. I couldn't understand not playing Shaw and Chilwell. I know it was for leadership. I know that's what Southgate said. And listen, they got the win in the end, but I just think that's a little ridiculous when you have Shaw and Chilwell, who both had good seasons.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Thanks everyone who's tuning in. Please share the video if you're watching, and make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. We are on the road to 430k. We could hit it tonight, so please subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. 10 minutes here. Italy looking very comfortable, although Imbola's just picked up a long ball on the left-hand side. Let's see what happens here. He's running at Chiellini, and he loses the ball. We're going to... Let me just read this super chat here. Hi, guys. Apparently, there was a bomb in a car before the game started, Italy versus Switzerland, which was destroyed by police. Look on Twitter, says Ben King. That sounds serious. And hello, says Vignesh. Looking forward to watch Italy play. Well, it's been a good start from Italy. And we are just about to hit 10 minutes. We are 9 minutes and 50 seconds, if anyone wants to sync up. Let's talk about Declan Rice, because I've kept that chat below. Oh, big chance. Cross came in, and I think it's Immobile who just heads it over the top of the bar. It's Spinazzola again.
Yeah, honestly, this is...
man. And there's a player who is definitely got a left foot, because it's a beautiful cross on his left foot. Actually, I would have expected Immobile to do a little bit better there, Alex.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Immobile would as well. I mean, that's a free header, Mark. Like, that is definitely a free header.
It's one of those, it's a better chance than you think when he heads it over the bar.
Exactly. The replay always doesn't do the striker justice there. I mean, that really is a free header.
Yeah, player
Spinazzola. Wow, I mean, he's been a bright player. I guess it's not just Turkey that allows him to be totally free.
Well, you'd argue. Well, I mean, I know. Not many teams have played their second game yet, but certainly at the moment, Spinazzola is probably player of the tournament. He's certainly doing very well. I mean, I was going to talk about Declan Rice. Let me just talk about striker first, because Chelsea Champions League winners. I have to say congratulations. And actually, I'd rather you had won it than City anyway. But you're both in the market for a striker. I saw your Premier League fixtures come out today. Mm-hmm. I think people panic about stuff like that. Chelsea are the form team. You know, if you win those games, you've played those games. You know, the confidence you can get. But it probably makes it, and Chelsea are very good at this, more important that Chelsea get the business done they want to get done before the season starts. Where Chelsea are capable of anything. What do you think you're going to do around the striker situation? I thought it might be Lukaku, but he looks like he's going to stay. Do you think a Haaland is possible?
You know what? Every day I'm believing Haaland is more possible. The only thing that keeps me from saying that Haaland isn't possible is just that it's going to be an astronomical deal in every way, shape, and form. Raiola's wages, Haaland's wages, obviously. What 200
million, maybe.
Right. I mean, really, it could be just a true record breaker in every way. The reason why I actually am most optimistic, beyond it seems like Haaland actually would be down to play for Chelsea, is the fact that we know if Dortmund don't sell him this summer, they're going to lose him for a heck of a lot less next summer. So, like, that's the big incentive for Dortmund to consider selling him. So even if you guys get Sancho, right? And I know they don't want to lose Sancho and Haaland in the same summer. Who would? But the fact that they could make almost double the amount this summer if they sell Haaland now to next summer, that's what gives me the most optimism. And the fact, I mean, we won the Champions League, and it seems like Roman Abramovich is all in on backing Tuchel. So that's why I am somewhat optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea more than Man City, I think, are probably one of the clubs that I just think, yeah, they might just go and do that. And the reason I ask you the question as well, and people who are in the live chat will appreciate this as well, is that I've been talking about this with United in the Europa League. I thought there were some teams in the Europa League that actually played better than us, i.e. AC Milan were one, Roma as well, but they lacked a number 9 of quality, and United didn't. We had Cavani. And I think we've seen it in the Euros as well. You know, Sweden are a good example, like you said. They've got that number 9. That makes them a threat. Spain don't. That makes them not such a threat. Switzerland against Wales didn't really have it. So there is a bit of a lack of these sort of strikers. And if you don't get Haaland, what do you do?
It's a huge question. I mean, I'm not saying the Lukaku thing, by the way, is done. I know he said I'm staying, but Mark, you followed the game long enough as well. We've had so many cases of players saying I'm staying, and then a couple of days later they move. I mean, Pogba Do you remember that? I mean, obviously you remember when you acquired him, but Pogba was on IFTV, so Italian football TV, the guys for IFTV. They met him at some event in, I think, the United States, and they even got on camera, I think, like, "Hey, Pogba, you staying at Juve?" And he looked them in the eyes and said, "I'm staying." 3 days later, he signs for United. So it happens all the time. And I think Lukaku may have said that. I know he's happy in Italy, but he did lose Conte. I think he said it mainly because he was about to start the Euros with Belgium, and he didn't want that question asked every day. And at the time, no move was close. So at that point, the easiest thing to do is just say, "I'm staying." And he might stay, but I just don't think that's over yet. Like, I don't think we've heard
I agree with you.
That. Yeah.
I do agree with you on the Lukaku thing. I think it's almost too soon for Lukaku to come out and say that. And, oh, here we go again. Wait a minute. You weren't on last night, Alex, so you won't know. Wash and go. Hi, Mark. If we donated £500 to charity, would you dye your hair wash and go green? Wash and Goldbridge. So wash and go is like, they've obviously, we've done some stuff in the past. They actually are, I don't know whether you get it in America. It's like a 2-in-1 shampoo, basically. So they were in the chat last night, and we had Craig from Anfield Agenda on, who's got no hair. So they were sort of bantering him, saying wash and gone. But it's obviously my turn tonight. Would I dye my hair if we donated £500 to green? I tell you what, you're not far off. You just need a few more zeros on there. I'm not dyeing my hair green for 500 quid.
I mean, do you need like wife's permission on that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I do. So yeah, there's the wife tax there, wash and go as well. So yeah, 500 quid. I don't get out of bed for 500 quid. So I'm not dyeing my hair for green. I'm not dyeing my hair green. I wouldn't even do that when I lived in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day. So no, wash and get out and come back with some more zeros or P's.
Yeah, more zeros we could talk.
Yeah, it's funny though, because go on.
Go ahead. I was going to say more zeros, and the wife might change her mind as well.
Yeah, she might do. She might dye her hair green as well. A bit of a different question, Mark, but why would Chelsea be looking at Varane when they just extended Thiago Silva's contract? Well, that's another one as well that we need to talk about. And also, Vignesh says, I think Lukaku is perfect for Chelsea. I actually wanted to ask Alex, Kane, Haaland, Lukaku, who would you take at Chelsea?
All of them. Any of them, all of them. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I hate to sound so simplistic. Like,
I think Kane would be the most perfect for you.
He would, absolutely. I mean, first of all, he's just amazing. It's an in-league transfer. So it would be brilliant. But, that's one department where you don't really have to overanalyze, Mark. Like, people don't have to get all nerdy and appear extra smart and say, well, Haaland would be better or worse than Lukaku or Kane. Like, no, those are top strikers. Those are top strikers. You have everything else. You need a goal scorer. Any of those guys work. And, those guys have more to their game than just goal scoring as well. Like Kane, we know. I mean, he just led the Premier League in assists as well. Lukaku, though, Mark, I mean, I don't know what United fans think about him these days, because I know, obviously, he didn't live up to the expectations when he was at your club. But since then, and I'm not saying this because he's in a different league, so maybe things are easier. No, he's improved his game, like, hugely. Like, there's so much more to Lukaku now. So I think he also is way more than a one-trick pony. And Haaland, I mean, who wouldn't want a 20-year-old striker with that talent and that mentality? So any of them, honestly.
Also, I think it's just the way Chelsea are going to play. I think that, Kane, Haaland, Lukaku, they're not the same, but I think they'd all suit the way Chelsea play, really. And the interesting thing is, if you don't get Kane, Lukaku, Haaland, or whoever else the superstar striker is, who are you going to get? Because you're going to get somebody, and I think that would be that would be the interesting question, because Chelsea will get somebody, definitely. I've just realised as well with the wash and go thing that the £500 was to charity. So yeah, I just want more zeros for charity. Yeah, that's what I would want. Yeah, definitely. A corner for Italy here. Sorry. Yeah,
no, I would just say play Kai Havertz a bit more in that position. I don't know. I don't want bargain strikers.
Yeah. I don't think you would do that. It's goal. It's Chiellini.
Wow.
This is why I went quiet when it was a corner. It's a goal for Italy, and it's Chiellini. They're rocking here, Alex. They're on the game, and they're rocking again. This is in Rome, isn't it, as well, I think. So it's a bit like it's another home game for them, really.
Is there anything more appropriate than Chiellini getting a header for Italy? Or sorry, not a header, but just poking it in for Italy. I mean, it's just Italy right there. Set piece, captain. Donnarumma
2 bites of the
up.
cherry as well, wins the first ball and then fancies the second ball as well. No messing around.
Mark, do you remember how the first game started against Turkey? Chiellini almost scored right from the get-go when they had a set piece, I think. I think it was a header that just missed.
Yeah, that's why I said, that's why we made the conversation about a Chelsea striker and I saw a corner for Italy. I thought might be a good time to be quiet because Italy don't mess around from corners. I mean, it's the old way of 1-0 and the game's over, but thankfully they don't play like that now. He's having a little bit of a VAR check, though.
That's got to stand for me, though.
I don't know. Might be one of those where he turns it down. Be a shame. Italy are going to do very well this year, says Josh. They're taking the time on it. I think he's going to give it. Yeah,
I've never seen this ref before in my life.
Oh, no, he's going to VAR. No, what's he doing? No, he's not giving the goal. No goal, handball.
Wow.
Well, I suppose in the context of the game, it's fine because it keeps it more of an even contest, and Italy have got to keep going for it. But he's handballed it. Oh, it's very unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, he's nearly caught it when you see that angle. VAR. Change the game.
Oh, that's 2 times Chiellini. He's almost scored this tournament. You got to think third time might be the charm. Well, still, Mark, I would say that Italy, once again, looked clearly like the better team. Clearly. Yeah, it's a handball all day.
I had them down for semi-finals. I think they'll go to the semi-finals. I think they're... obviously, it depends who you get in the draws and stuff, but... I just actually, the thing is as well, as somebody who follows Italian football quite a lot, although last season is probably the worst one I've ever had in my life because of because of COVID and the just sheer relentless of Premier League games. I found it so hard to keep up to date with any other league in any real depth. But Pellegrini and Verratti, I mean, they're not even on the bench. I don't know what the depth of their injuries are, but they're potential. Well, Verratti is surely a first teamer, and Pellegrini's a very good player as well.
Yeah, Pellegrini, I mean, not too long ago, he had big hopes just within general Serie A as a player on the rise. And I'm not saying that can't be true, but what's interesting is who sits if Verratti's fit to start, because Barella, Locatelli, Jorginho, they all seem like they have a deserving place right now in the Italian midfield. But then again, would Verratti really be a healthy scratch? Like, would he be a healthy sub? I feel like Verratti would still be starting.
I mean, I don't know whether anyone in the chat knows what the situation with those two are. I mean, Darren G says Verratti's always injured. I must admit, whenever United play PSG, he never seems to be fit.
No, it's true.
Wash and go are back again. If you won't dye your hair green, would you dye your hair pink if a player with pink boots scores against England in the group stages? Well, the trouble is, I'd normally say yes, but I've noticed there's a massive amount of players wearing pink boots. All right. I'll tell you what, the only game I'd be willing to gamble that on, Wash and go, is if England are playing Germany and Timo Werner's playing, because I know he wears pink boots, but I would dye my hair if a player with pink boots scored, because I wouldn't fancy Timo to score against anybody at the moment. So, yeah, I'll dye my hair pink if Timo Werner scores against England in the World Cup.
Mark, I'm loving your Timo chatter these days. I really am. I mean, Timo Ronaldo the other day. And it's just funny because Timo already has built himself a reputation for being the guy to miss sitters. And with all that said, we don't even know how to feel about him because he's also a Champions League winner. So
I like Timo Werner. I just think, you know, he's also because he's, I don't know whether it even bothers him, but if it did, it shouldn't. I don't actually think he's a bad player. I just think he's become, it's somebody said it in our chat a few days ago and it just made us laugh. It was like Morata missed and it was like, oh, Timo Morata's missed. And it's like everyone has to have that name Timo in front of them now. But I think he's a good player. I wanted him to come to United. I know Klopp wanted him at Liverpool. And like Havertz, Chelsea swooped in and got a player that maybe in a normal transfer window they wouldn't have got. But because nobody had any money, Chelsea flexed their muscles and got hold of him. Be interesting to see what happens with him going forward because he's German, Tuchel's German. Maybe you play him in behind the new striker, and I think he'd be quite decent in that role.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think he should just be better year 2 no matter what. But if Chelsea sign a striker, Timo's not going to get the same type of chances every game like he got this past season, because Kai's going to play more and more. The striker would play more and more, obviously. And if you keep a back 3, Mount's going to play in the front 3. So Timo's got to be careful. Like, he's got to be a heck of a lot better in year 2, because he was blessed by playing time with Frank Lampard and Tuchel. Like, he got benefit of the doubt because he is a constant threat, Timo Werner, just in terms of his movement. But, you know, he's the opposite of clinical. The one difference between him and Morata, their mentality. Morata, you know, he as we see Chiellini just get removed here.
Yeah, I don't know what that's all about, actually. A few people are saying, I mean, he's gone and sat in the bench. He seems to be shrugging everybody away, saying it's nothing much. But he's come off. If anyone knows why, let us know. It might just be that he's felt something and doesn't want to risk it. But
yeah, that's a big loss, though, honestly, just from a leadership perspective as well. Be interesting to see if there is organized at the back with a Cherbian, who's not a bad player at all, but Chiellini also with Bonucci. I mean, that's a partnership you have a lot of chemistry with. Bonucci was that center back that everybody wanted a few years ago, who wanted a ball-playing center back. Do you remember when Pep really wanted him?
Yeah. They don't travel well, though, Italian defenders.
No, they belong where they've been. I was a big...
What a ball that is, first time out to Berardi. I don't know if they hit that. It was probably Barella or Locatelli. It was bloody brilliant. And he's in. And if this is a goal, what a goal for Italy. That is absolutely fantastic. Absolutely incredible, that is. It's Locatelli. And now if he started the move, it's one of the best almost give-and-go goals I've seen of the tournament. It's magnificent. Out to Berardi. Cross in. That's a fantastic goal. I don't know who played the first pass.
No, I think it was Locatelli.
Magnificent goal. They're playing some lovely stuff.
Yeah, that was Locatelli who did that one-time ball to Berardi out wide. I'm almost positive.
It was absolutely brilliant. He started it. I mean, the ball itself here. Let's see it back. Yeah, what a ball off his left foot out to Berardi, and then he motors. He's motoring. Look at that. He's motoring. And then Berardi does. Oh, that's a great goal. It's really great when somebody starts that move. It's like it's one of the longest but best 1-2s you'll see. Absolutely brilliant. 1-0.
Yeah, you don't see 1-2s of that length that often, but sensational from Locatelli to pick him out there. And yeah, he was onside. Berardi did so well too.
This always happens. There's these players. Memphis Depay will join Barcelona as a free agent, contract to be signed soon, and here we go. And Sergio Ramos will leave Real Madrid, and tomorrow will be his farewell press conference. So two big bits of news there coming in from Fabrizio. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Locatelli is a player I like, and that's a cracking goal. And it's another very good goal from a very impressive Italy side in the first 25 minutes. Alex, Switzerland have offered very little, actually, so far. Very.
Now, I'm not saying it's Turkey shambles, but it's close. I mean, Italy have dominated, but I don't want to take anything away from Italy. Like, clearly, they are a well-structured side. They just seem so in sync. Credit to Roberto Mancini, Mark, because, I mean, none of these guys had much time to prepare with these teams because of the extra cramped schedule this season. But Italy looked like they've been playing together for really a long time.
And it's interesting with Locatelli there. I mean, hits the ball from the halfway line. It's a lovely ball out to Berardi. And then, the hunger to get in the box, and then he gets it back for the tap-in. We're talking about Verratti coming back into the team. And people on the last game were saying, it'll be Locatelli who drops out. I think he offers you something very different from that midfield that Verratti won't, and Barella won't, and Jorginho won't. So it'd be interesting if Verratti does get back fit, how that works out.
I mean, that's a manager's dream right there, to start it like he did and then to run so hard and to have a trailing run into the box. I mean, there's nothing more infuriating for a manager when there's a run to be made, a trailing run into the box, and you don't make it.
It's almost, to be honest, talking about Chelsea, it was almost, and I'm not likening him to Lampard, but it's the sort of thing Lampard used to do. Get it out wide and then just make sure you're on the end of it in the box.
Yep, absolutely.
I think that goal was better than Ronaldo's goal because it's the ball out so wide was exquisite, and then the power and energy to get in the box, and taking nothing away from the wide man who put the cross in as well. But Ramos leaving. Where do you think Ramos is off then, Alex?
Sergio Ramos?
Yeah.
Man, we have Fabrizio on that right now?
Yeah.
Jeez.
I thought he was going to stay. The story today was that he backed down to Perez's demands and was going to stay, but it's now coming out that he's going to go, which is interesting because, I'd like Varane at United. I think it's an impossible deal for United to do. I know he's been linked to Chelsea and PSG, but it's hard to see where Ramos is going to go unless they're going to have Ramos and Varane at PSG.
I never put anything past PSG. And honestly, I'm not sure how much you've been following the Hakimi stuff, but maybe PSG are less likely for Hakimi now because I guess they're getting Serge Aurier. It was not as good, but maybe they're not going to put out the money now for Hakimi. And maybe that money will go elsewhere, PSG. You can't put anything past PSG. You really can't in the spending department. But man, that would be really weird to see Sergio Ramos in a different uniform.
Yeah, it's a weird time to go and do it. I mean, I know Thiago Silva's done it going to yourselves and he was at PSG for a long time, but Ramos leaving Real Madrid, it's a bit like Ryan Giggs leaving Manchester United at 36. It's like, well, yeah, you can understand why, but, although he didn't, although I say that, they bought Ramos, didn't they? I can't remember where they bought him from, but they spent, he's not a product of the youth system or anything like that. They spent quite good money on Ramos. I can't remember where they bought him from, but
yeah, ages ago. My goodness. Yeah. But what Thiago Silva did was risky, just in terms of if you care about your legacy. There's a risk there to be had when you move to the Premier League at that age, when people are still going to hold you to a high expectation, but you might not be able to keep up with that style of football at that age. Thiago Silva passed the test, totally. But it would be interesting if Ramos would want to try himself in the Premier League and maybe, I don't want to say expose, that's a harsh word, but you know how fans are. If he didn't look nearly as good, they would say he exposed himself, which still would be wrong. But yeah, I mean, man, that's a major shakeup for Real at center back, even if they just lose one of Varane and Ramos. Miller.
Yeah, well, I spoke to, I was on the United Stand a few months ago and when the Ramos rumours started, and there was a high amount of United fans who said they'd take Ramos. And for me, it was a no, because I think he'd be very expensive. I don't think he's future-proof. And I also think that the demands of what United need next to Harry Maguire would be quite difficult for him. Also, I think he's had quite a bad injury. The knee injury that he had last time was quite a bad one. So,
and at this age,
I would imagine he's going to go. I mean, for me, it's a little bit like Ronaldo. I mean, yeah, you can come back to United, but if you go to PSG, you might win the Champions League. You'll certainly win the French league. And when you're not playing in the Champions League, the demand is far less on your body than it is going to be in the Premier League and playing Champions League. So Ramos, and as you say, PSG can afford it. So
yeah,
I'd be surprised if it's not PSG. I can't see him. He's going for money because Real Madrid won't give him the money he wants. So he's not going to go. He's not going home to Sevilla because that was where he came from. He's going to go somewhere for money, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like PSG, if we're looking at Vegas right now and odds makers, they got to be at the top. I just don't see a Premier League side at all getting him. I really don't.
And Memphis Depay confirms going to Barcelona, which I think we've pretty much known for a long time. It's an interesting move, a bit of a Dutch revolution at Barcelona. I mean, in some ways, I think Koeman's probably quite lucky to still be in charge. But
Memphis, can I be honest though? Mark, he's going to be one of those players that probably will put up decent stats. Yeah, going to Barca, Depay has always done relatively okay with stats. Maybe not at United. I don't really.
Is Immobile? Oh no, he's messed it up. Don't worry. Oh no, he might not have done. Insigne, little dink. Oh, headed away by Kanji. Yeah, sorry about that, Alex. Yeah, Italy just on the attack. Yeah.
I feel like Depay will put up stats at Barca, perhaps, but I don't think his overall influence is going to be groundbreaking or anything like that. I'm not sure he moves the needle much.
I mean, we had him at United and we bought him off sensational form at PSV, and the Dutch league's very different to the Premier League. And again, he's gone and done very well in the French league, which again I would say is very different to the Premier League. So Memphis Depay is not going to be a top 10 player in the world. That's not going to happen.
No.
But he's a good, basically free signing. And what I would say as well is United have got first refusal on that deal. So look, maybe Memphis wouldn't want to come back to United, but I've got it on good authority that United made no attempt to bring him back either. So, for a player that's basically free, that says quite a lot.
Yeah, it does. He's a tricky player to fully know where to position him as well, isn't he? Because, he's an attacker in some way, shape, or form, but where is his absolute best position and in what setup?
Yeah. I don't see the revolution of Barcelona coming around anytime soon, to be fair.
Honestly, out of the 3 Spanish teams, who has the best future? The 3 top Spanish teams.
It's probably Atletico, isn't it? Because they've, if you look at the age group of their players and the quality of those players, Real Madrid what Real Madrid are going to do, and just on the game, it's sort of settled down a little bit now because Italy are 1-0 up and Switzerland are a little bit lost as to what they're going to do to try and get back into this. But Real Madrid are going to lose. Well, they're going to lose Ramos, and I suppose Varane might change his mind now. But if they do lose Varane, I know they've got Alaba coming in, and I know they've got Militao, but they're going to have to buy another centre back. There's a bit of an overlap here. If he gets it to Rodriguez, will he hit it first time? He cross and it's gone for a corner. And they just don't have money either, Alex, do they? These clubs. I mean, Madrid are still in the Super League. They still, for some reason, are hanging on to a 3-team league that no one else is going to ever come back into.
Mm-hmm.
There's a good question there, and I'll drop it into Alex's mind because at halftime we do sometimes do discussions on things. So top 5 managers in the world. We'll talk about that at halftime.
Good one.
And the chat can get involved in that as well. That's a good one. We did top 5 players in the world yesterday, you see. So, which was interesting because you can get to 10, a short list of 10 very quickly, which makes you think when people say, they're a top 10 player in the world. It's amazing how quick you can get 10 really, really top class players and leave a shitload of players out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's easier if you do it within one league, at least. Remember Ricardo Rodriguez's amazing season where just everybody wanted him at left back or left wing back? Like he put up absurd stats at Wolfsburg one season.
Yeah, I definitely remember United being linked to, and I guarantee probably Chelsea were as well.
I'm sure, yeah. Well, until Chilwell, we were really struggling to find not next Ashley Cole per se, but just somebody that we really enjoyed at that spot. Alonso, he had his moments, but. Granit Xhaka on the move. What's your feeling on Granit Xhaka, since we both know him, obviously, from Arsenal?
My first thoughts on Xhaka, and there was a bit of a chance for Spinazzola there, who, funnily enough, actually went with his right foot when I think he should have gone with his left, or didn't know. Yeah, I don't know what happened there actually. I think Arsenal arrogance makes me laugh because they act. This is what some Arsenal fans do. They think that they should be on a par with Man City, so they're like, Xhaka's not good enough for Arsenal, but you're a mid-table club. I think Xhaka is good enough for Arsenal, but I think if Arsenal want to be a top 4 club, he's not good enough. But your board doesn't act like a top 4 club. So Xhaka's probably a good fit for a team like Arsenal. I wouldn't want him anywhere near United, but I don't think he's as bad as people make out. I think he's got some admirable traits when he's up for it, but I think he's quite an inconsistent player.
Spot on. For their ambitions, he's not good enough, but for where they are, yeah, he fits right in. Yeah.
I saw they'd had a bid for Ben White turned down today, actually, 40 million quid.
It's a lot of money, isn't it? I'm not saying he's a bad player. But
it's the evolution of the transfer market as well. I mean, I quite like Basuma at Brighton, and you think, well, if they want 40 million for White, I quite fancied Basuma for about a reasonable sort of 35. Yeah. These clubs now, this is the thing about the sharing of the money in the Premier League, is that these clubs below, who normally you'd be able to get a relatively good deal out of, start asking 45 million for Ben White, and it's like, well, hold on a minute, he's not, where, and in a COVID market as well, where's the COVID reduction? He's not a 50 million pound centre back.
No.
We probably didn't help with that, to be fair, United, spending £80 million on Harry Maguire.
You skewed the market even more. Appreciate it.
But I mean, I've said before, I do like Harry Maguire. It's not his fault that our board are incompetent. He's a £50 million centre-back. That's what he is. I don't blame Leicester for rinsing us either. I just think, it's not that. Italy coming away again here. Is it Spinazzola again? He's got so much energy. He's won a corner there. Against the good, I like the right back for Switzerland as well. In fact, I like both their fullbacks, and Babu and Rodriguez.
Yeah. They're not awful on paper.
No, I actually thought Switzerland should have beaten Wales, and I think that they should beat Turkey. I mean, they should beat Turkey. Wales should have beat Turkey 6-0 today, so I think Switzerland might just have to ride the storm of Italy probably being one of the best clubs in the tournament, and then reset and go for Turkey on Sunday.
Yeah,
a turkey roast. The amount of people though, Alex, don't know about you, but don't know whether you did one of these Euro predictors, but I've got to put my hand up and say I did put Turkey in the semi-final, because I don't know, the thing is I don't watch a lot of international football, so I sort of researched everything, and a lot of people were saying watch out for Turkey, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to watch out for Turkey, and if they get through the group, it's not a bad run. They could get to the semis, but bloody hell, they are terrible, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, no, I didn't do like a bracket. So the predictor means like you're doing kind of a bracket style, and you got to go predict each match, through the final.
Yeah, there's a website over here that you could basically go through all the games and then the group games and the knockout stage. Yeah. So I ended up with an England-France final, but that's optimistic because I know England are going to have to play Portugal or Germany or France straight out of the group. So
honestly, I think England had it even sneaky tough in group stage. I think the group is underrated.
England's biggest problem is Gareth Southgate. We've got some fantastic talent. Big fan of Mason Mount, big fan of Phil Foden, Jack Grealish. But when you're playing a right back at left back and you're not using bench, I mean, apparently Chilwell wasn't injured, just wasn't a space for him on the bench. I thought, he doesn't like Luke Shaw, so he's using Trippier at left back and Ben Chilwell's injured. No, Chilwell's not even good enough for the bench. It's like,
And by the way, his excuse or his reason was he wanted experience. Okay, I hear it. Like, I know Mings, who would be next to him, inexperienced, so he wanted a more experienced guy like Trippier next to him. But, Chilwell just played in a Champions League final. I wouldn't call him inexperienced. And by the way, Southgate used to like Chilwell like a year ago when he was for Leicester.
Yeah. I actually thought he would go for Chilwell over Shaw. I thought there was hints of that in the friendlies and everything, and I don't even mind if he goes with Chilwell. I love Luke Shaw. I think he's England's best left back, but I've got no problem with Chilwell because he's got a left foot. I just don't want Trippier there.
Right. Well, remember when we heard the rumor that Shaw may have been at center back? You remember that like a week ago time that we were hearing Luke Shaw? Yeah. Now, you've always been a ride or die for Luke Shaw, and credit to you because he had a really good season, in my opinion. Well, I think in most people's opinion.
Yeah, it's always nice when a player that you sort of stand by, it's not even approved right, but universally gets liked, and you think, even rival fans are saying, because he had to turn around a lot of United fans. There was a lot of United fans who used to take a pic, pop at his weight. There were still some United fans talking about him last season, because some people just want to be stubborn. But yeah, it's always nice when that happens. And as we chatted on your podcast, there's two players for me, Declan Rice and Mason Mount, that a year ago, it's longer than a year now, it's probably 18 months, I would have been like, don't get it. But I think, I'm like, Mason Mount is just magnificent player.
Yeah, that's mine. If Luke Shaw is yours, kind of, Mason's definitely mine. The amount of people I wouldn't say I blocked them because of my love for Mason Mount, but like if you were to look at people I've blocked on Twitter, I would think 85% of them are people who literally abuse me for rating him. That's it. He's incredible. Every manager plays him. I think fans are starting to realize that now.
Yeah. I think some people thought it was the teacher's pet sort of thing, which we see at United with certain players, but no, with him, I mean, hands down. I don't know. Was he Chelsea's player of the season?
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was player of the season in our Champions League winning season, and he was borderline unanimous player of the season. You had shouts for Mendy and shouts for Silva, but Mount played well under both managers, the most under both managers. I mean, both managers made him captain, Mark. It was the FA Cup in each competition, but when Lampard and Tuchel make a 21/22-year-old captain, that speaks volumes.
I know that Ramos is leaving, everyone in the chat, so thanks for letting us know. We've actually discussed it already, but yeah, he is leaving official, which is it's interesting. It's interesting news. Let's quickly talk about Declan Rice as we approach half time. We've had this chat before. I would love him at United. I think that is the position we're crying out for, a centre defensive midfielder, and but I know full well that he's got connections with Chelsea. I mean, Mason Mount's probably his best mate as well. So, do you think that Chelsea will make that move this summer? Because West Ham are asking for a lot of money. I've sort of discounted United. I don't think United can do this deal, and I know City like him as well. But be interesting to see whether Chelsea make that move, because he won't be cheap.
No, he won't be cheap. He won't be cheap. I wouldn't say he'll be as expensive as West Ham will publicly get out there. Like, when you own a player like a Declan Rice and you have him on, a decently affordable contract, especially for how good of a player he is, and come on, he's their glue. He's pretty much their captain, especially when Noble's not playing. You're going to hold on to him as much as possible, and your public valuation is going to be really high. It's kind of similar, Mark, to how Leicester have done it with Maguire and Chilwell. It's not that different. But we know, obviously, his connection to Chelsea, and we know his ambitions. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Especially probably when he's with these Euros teammates, right, for England, who most of them are on Champions League winning teams. I think he probably feels like he should be playing Champions League football as well. So West Ham hold the power. If Chelsea, though, if Chelsea just bid, I feel like they'll get him, even if the bid's too low. I feel like that will start the process of, okay, now Rice to Chelsea is inevitable. But they just have to bid. So that's the only thing I'm unsure about. Will they bid? Because we know you guys like him and City likes him. So, he can't wait around forever for Chelsea.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. He's definitely going to move at some point. I think I saw something the other day that West Ham think they'll keep him for another year. And maybe that will happen. But, he's undroppable for England. He's West Ham's glue, like you say. He's got to make that move, with all due respect to West Ham. I mean, look, Jesse Lingard had a great season at West Ham. I don't think he'll go back there. And that's exactly what I would say about Declan Rice. West Ham's been good to him, but, it's like Grealish. I think Grealish needs to play Champions League football. You won't do that with Villa.
No.
But he may stay loyal. He may stay loyal.
Yeah, I think Grealish is definitely going to be on his way out sooner rather than later. Mark, I don't think most people know how to analyze Declan Rice. I don't think in general people know how to analyze true DMs, because, I mean, think about that England game. Who got all, and by the way, Calvin Phillips was great. He was great. But when you find kind of a casual fan, they'll say, wait a minute, why are we after Rice? Let's go for Phillips. Or wait a minute, why are we after Rice? Let's go for Souček. But I don't think they really understand what Rice allows someone like a Phillips or a Souček to do. He's the one who's kind of holding the shape. He's the one who's kind of the nucleus. He's the glue within the midfield. And it's not because he can't do other roles. He definitely can. I think people would be surprised how much talent he has. But managers just trust him to kind of keep the shape. So even if he's in a pivot, like he was with Phillips and Souček at West Ham, he's still the holder, even in a pivot. So, it's a tough position for some fans to analyze, I think, because they're looking for kind of the sexy things. And that's not often what you get when you want to analyze like a good traditional true six, a true DM.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he got a bit of stick for the England game, actually. But I mean, I saw it for years with Michael Carrick. Michael Carrick, people forget, some United fans used to describe him as Marmite. And I was like, what are you on about? Marmite is something that half people love and half people don't like. He's not Marmite, he's caviar. Like, he's an acquired, delicacy. And it's great when people like Rooney and Ronaldo come out and say, look, Michael Carrick gives us the platform to go and express ourselves. And it's that whole, Carrick was the pimped up version of Jorginho, basically, that he could just run the back four, let everything go and conduct it. And I think Declan Rice is a very similar. I mean, I've had people on the United stand saying, well, don't get Declan Rice, get Souček, because Souček scores more goals. But that's because Souček makes runs into the box that Declan Rice doesn't do, because he's providing the platform for him to do that. So it's a CDM, isn't it? You're a CDM. It's a specialist role.
Yeah, it profiles just how maybe simplistic some fans can look at the game. They'll see Souček got 10 goals, I think, in the Premier League this season, which, by the way, is fantastic. Like, Souček's got height to him. He knows how to be in the right area. He's good at heading the ball. But it's quite clear David Moyes has Declan Rice be the holder, and he allows Souček to get forward. Even when Noble starts out there with Souček and Rice, even Noble is playing more forward than Declan Rice. So I think that tells you everything you need to know. I'm not saying Rice and Mount are similar in how they've been analyzed because they're best mates. That really has nothing to do with anything. But I do think that they are the classic players, Mark, where coaches rate them, teammates rate them, opponents rate them, scouts rate them, anyone within the game rates them. But you go onto Twitter and 15, 16, 22-year-olds, they think they're boring and bland. And doesn't that tell you everything you need to know?
It does. It does. I'm just going to add him back in there. Oh, no, it's still there. Anyway, halftime, we're going to do top 5 managers in the world. Me and Alex are going to chat with the live chat, so get ready. But halftime, 1-0, Italy, lovely goal from Locatelli, switches it outright. Beraldi runs it in and he follows it up in there, almost Lampard-esque, like I said. Chiellini with a goal disallowed. Switzerland have offered next to nothing in this game, and Italy are comfortable and cruising. And I think they're going to cruise all the way through to the semi-finals. And I think that I hope they do, because I think they're playing football in a way that's very, very enjoyable to watch, which is a breath of fresh air with Italy, because I think in the past they've not approached tournaments like that. So big up to Mancini, which is what Alex was talking about. Half-time then, top 5 managers in the world. It's always difficult. I think you're right, Alex. It's almost difficult. It's almost easier to say top 5 managers in the Premier League because you can close it down. But top 5 managers in the world, you're definitely going to be looking at the French League, the Premier League, La Liga, the Italian League. Names that come to your head. I mean, we can narrow it down. You don't have to just go straight with the 5. But who comes to mind? Well, let's start with the Premier League. I mean, Pep, Klopp,
Tuchel. I mean, we got to go current, right? Like when we rate players, we rate them on kind of current form. So Tuchel has to
won the Champions League from a position of, where you're not going to get top 4 and nearly won an FA Cup. I mean, you've got to put those 3 in there. Let me write these down. So we've got Pep, Klopp, and Tuchel from the Prem. Anyone else we think we should put in chat?
Not in the Premier League, in my opinion, at least. I mean, not Ole, not Arteta.
No. I can't make that case.
No.
Dylan says, you would benefit from having someone like Declan Rice next to Pogba, definitely. And Cruton says, the way you're talking about Rice is literally how everyone that isn't a Leeds fan talks about Calvin Phillips. There you go. So let's go to out of work managers, because Rafael Varane has just reminded me there. Do we add Zidane and Conte in there?
Antonio Conte has to be in there. And by the way, I mean, I've had a very bubbly relationship with Antonio Conte. Like, I thought he quit on Chelsea in his second season with the club. He's an infuriating man at times. But come on, we're talking about club football, domestic league. Mark, he's one of the best football minds there is. He has to be in there. He has to be. Zidane, manager, yeah. And I'm not saying he's woeful tactically, but is he a sure-in for the top 5 manager? His trophy case would say so, but I don't know.
It's an interesting one, isn't he? Because I think, 3 Champions Leagues in a row is fantastic, but Ronaldo was in that team. Sergio Ramos is in that team. Varane's in that team. It's almost like we've thrown Pep in, but if we were just talking about Pep with Barcelona, I think the thing that would get him in there is the way that Barcelona played. Messi, Busquets, Xavi, everybody else like that. But there's an identifiable tactician in Pep that maybe there isn't with Zidane. I think it's more man management. So I think we'll leave Zidane on the bench. I think Conte is in. French league, I mean, probably not really.
Pochettino is just too out of it, right? Like, he needs to get more back into the mix and show us a bit more. We can't throw him in there after him not even getting a full season this past season, right?
No. Somebody Hazib says, what about Bielsa? I mean, I'm a big fan of Bielsa, but I think he needs to do. I'd love to. I said this last season. I'd love to see the experiment of Bielsa given an Arsenal team or a Spurs team and just see what he would do. Is Bielsa that manager who gets the best out of bad player? A certain type of player. Could he do it with a Man City or someone like that?
See, I don't think Bielsa is a big club manager, like a current big club. I know I'm not dissing Leeds or anything like that. I understand their history. I think Bielsa is perfect for a team like Leeds. And I just don't know. And maybe I'm kind of basing this off Maurizio Sarri, who, by the way, is a good manager, but it's such a specific brand of football. And I just don't know if they can have longevity at, say, a United or a Chelsea or a City or a Barca or Real. I just don't know if that's the right place for them. So much so, David Almoyal, who I work with on the Serie A podcast, has always said, and he's the biggest Sarri fan there is, he's always said that he thought Sarri should do what Bielsa does and find a club that's a little bit more down the line of expectations and make it his own. Yeah. Bielsa's a very trendy pick, though. You know, a lot of hipsters want to go with Bielsa because it's such a unique style of football. But I wouldn't put him in. I wouldn't put him in the top 5. No.
No, I wouldn't either. I love watching Bielsa. I love watching. I hate Leeds because I'm a United fan, but I will watch. I'd almost say to any Premier League fan who wants to watch Premier League football, just pick a Leeds game, because you're probably going to get an entertaining game. So no, we've got Pep, Klopp, Tuchel, Conte in relation to out of work and Premier League. No one from the French league. Bundesliga, would you take anyone from the Bundesliga? I mean, Hansi Flick's just left, hasn't he? So
yeah, I'm seeing some Flick shots in the comments, but like, I don't know. And I'm also not going to...
Top 5 in the world, probably not, is he?
No. And how do you feel about Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid?
I think
he's overrated.
He's winning the title again. I find his football... I mean, look, I called this and I was very happy about it. And people are like, oh, Chelsea fan. And I said, no, it's Premier League against the best team in Spain at that time. And they did become the best team in Spain. And Chelsea were not even in the top 4 at that point. And over 2 legs, Chelsea was far superior because he's got a certain way of playing over a season. He's almost like the Argentinian Mourinho. I don't see much that I admire about the way Atletico Madrid play. I find it quite suppressive. I don't like his style of football.
Probably my least favorite team to watch as a neutral. I'm not saying I'm neutral, but just if I were just to look for a good game between a top club, Atletico Madrid, I just don't really tune into their games. I really don't. We have some Allegri shouts, and you know what? Allegri's a pretty good overall manager. Like, the thing about Allegri is I just don't think he has many holes as a manager. I think he's a decent manager, and I think he's pretty decent tactically. We'll see how he does, obviously, in his return to football, but he's a fair shout, I think.
He's back at Juve, isn't he, now, Allegri?
Yeah.
We'll go to the Italian league. Is there any managers in there? I mean, Conte's left now. Obviously, Allegri's back. We've just spoken about.
Mourinho's back at Roma.
Mourinho's back. I mean, yeah, I was Mourinho for me. I mean, if anyone's just tuning in, we're doing top 5 managers in the world, so we're going through each league to get the candidates. Yeah, I mean, look, a few years ago, Mourinho, but failed at United, failed badly at Chelsea in the end, failed at Spurs badly, and I saw that coming. He can't be top 5 in the world anymore.
He's past it. Legacy, of course, absolutely, but he's past it. You know, we skipped over Nagelsmann and the Bundesliga. It's another manager, by the way, though. Like, he's a good manager. He's a good young manager, Nagelsmann. But don't you think he gets just a bit overrated because, you know, he's this almost like, you know, you would with a player who's kind of young and exciting and on the come up. I feel like Nagelsmann is almost, people act like he's got this flawless resume so far, whereas it hasn't been, you know, a smooth ride for him completely. He's a good mind, though, and I would say if you're starting new with a team and you didn't have a manager and you wanted someone there for the long haul, maybe Nagelsmann's a shout. But I don't think I can actually put him confidently in the top 5.
No, I would agree with you on that one. I think Nagelsmann's one for the future, isn't he? And I actually thought he'd end up at Spurs, which sort of says what he's about. Which basically leaves La Liga as our last place for contenders. We've already spoken about Simeone. Ancelotti has gone from Everton to Madrid, so that's where he comes in. I'm a big fan of Ancelotti.
As am I.
Yeah.
Maybe. Everton faltered a little bit at the end of the season, you know, more so than I think you could have predicted. They were pretty good for a decent amount of the season. But Ancelotti's got the resume and he's still decent currently. So I think if you put him 5th, you wouldn't have that many people calling it egregious, at least.
Yeah. Well, we'll put Ancelotti into the equation because we've still got to do international coaches.
Well, I don't want to get swept away by Mancini right here, because I once upon a time didn't really rate him at club level, but he's been really good with Italy lately. Luis Enrique, no, not at all.
I think Deschamps is a subject of an amazing squad. I mean, look, I don't want to dismiss him. He's a World Cup winner, and he may well be a Euros winner. So, and they do play quite well organised, structured football that's very effective. I wonder how much of that would be. But then again, it's only the advantage that Pep's got at Man City with a checkbook. I mean, Deschamps has done a good job.
Yeah, it's tough to analyze someone when they have that much talent at their disposal.
Yeah.
But I will say, he has still constructed the team, in my opinion, rather smartly. I mean,
big calls as well. He makes big calls.
Yeah. So, I mean, he made a big call bringing Benzema back. I'm a big Benzema guy, but there's always a dressing room risk there, I guess.
Did he not take Monaco to a semi-final as well?
Deschamps. Yeah, he might have, to be honest.
Yeah. I wouldn't put him in the top 5, but, I just want to give him a bit of respect.
Sure. But see, like, Roberto Martinez, no offense to him, but he's not Belgium's strong suit, I wouldn't say. He just doesn't mess things up. I don't know if you remember who Belgium had before Roberto Martinez. Mark Wilmots, shambolic manager. So Roberto Martinez is better than someone like that, but he's pretty basic to me.
I think with Martinez, I was very surprised he got the Belgium job, because I thought he was a bit of a catastrophe at Everton, to be honest with you. Yeah, he did well at Wigan. I think that was probably his pinnacle, really. You've probably going to win the Euros now with Belgium. But I'm quite happy to settle on Pop. I always get them mixed up. Pep, Klopp, Tuchel, Conte, and Ancelotti as the top 5 managers in the world. I would be quite happy with that. Would you have any changes to those 5, Alex?
No, and I'll hear people's shouts for Nagelsmann and Flick and Allegri. I'll hear that one. Definitely, maybe even the most. Maybe I put Allegri 6, but like I said, I think the first 4 we did pretty easily. We did the first 4 pretty easily. And then with Ancelotti, like I said, he's got the legacy and he's still decent currently. So I think that's a pretty good top 5.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, because 3 of them are current Premier League managers, and I think that's right. Pep won the Premier League and got to a Champions League final. Tuchel, from pretty much nowhere, won a Champions League and got them into the top 4. And Klopp, I still think getting Liverpool into the top 4 was a good achievement. And obviously what he's done in the last 2 years, and also last season, was ridiculous for Liverpool with the injury. So I still think, I'm happy with that. I think a lot of people in the live chat would love to see Hansi Flick in there, which is, of course, absolutely fine. If you want to get your top 5s in, then yeah, get your chat in there. Sergio Ramos following many PSG players on Instagram. We've spoken about this, Ramos to PSG, Alex. I think it's the money, isn't it? It's the place he's going to get the money that Real Madrid won't get him. No one else will give him that money, I don't think.
Yeah, and I also feel like if it's another way for PSG to, say to Neymar and Mbappe, hey, like, come on, we can win it here. You know what I mean? And we can win it here and you can still make your move, especially Mbappe later down the line. Just seems so obvious that Ramos would go to PSG.
Jason Bowditch says Tuchel barely makes top 5 in the Prim, let alone the world. He's just won the Champions League, I think. And I think with Tuchel, I'll put my hand up. I mean, I don't necessarily massively disagree with Jason 6 months ago when he went to Chelsea. I did say, well, before he went to Chelsea and Ollie was under a bit of problems, I was like, no, I don't want him. I just think he's a perennial loser. And 6 months later, and that's because of the experiences we'd had with him with PSG, etc. But to come in and take that job mid-season and get a team playing in a very different way very, very quickly and unite a squad that can never be a first 11, it's always got to be rotated. And then on top of that, beat Man City 3 times in a row and then win the Champions League. I think that what he did in that time should probably go down as one of the best sort of examples of you can change your manager in January and still have a very, very good season.
Well, Mark, I agree with everything you said. And you know what it did is, ironically, it helped Tuchel in the short term. Of course, it improved his legacy. It ensured that he'd get a new contract. But you know what it did in the long term? It actually solidified that Chelsea will continue to do what they always do. So in a way, Tuchel actually, I'm not saying he hurt himself long term, but he actually literally proved that you can sack me in a couple of years' time if it's not working out, and change the manager, and it'll continue to work. That's the irony in all of it.
Yeah, and I did say that when he got the job. I did say Tuchel will be gone in 2 years because he won't win the Premier League, and therefore Abramovich will sack him. But maybe I don't know. I mean, look, I actually disagreed with Lampard getting the sack, but that's only because I'm like, I didn't think Arteta should get the sack, and I didn't think Ollie should get the sack. I was like, look, give him the season. That I still stand by what I said at the time, but obviously I wasn't right. That's the you're not right about everything. I did feel it was a bit harsh on Lampard. I think he should have been given more time, but there's no way Lampard was going to win the Champions League, and he probably wouldn't have got you top four. So ultimately, the decision makers are right, ruthlessly right.
Yeah. Well, if that was Arsenal, Lampard would still be in charge.
Yeah. Anyway, the second half has kicked off. 46 minutes and 10 seconds. If you want to sink in, we're now at 46 minutes and 15 seconds. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So Italy 1-0 up. No subs yet. Got a cracking bench as well. I mean, I'm a big fan of Chiesa. I'm quite surprised that Chiesa doesn't start, but this is why I think Italy are a very interesting team in this tournament. As we've mentioned, Pellegrini and Verratti aren't even fit, but you look through their bench, there's no superstar in this Italian team, and I think that's a great thing for a manager. There's no superstar, so you basically end up with this squad of very, very sort of similar talented players, and a system that they can all drop into, and that's how you become a threat.
Yeah, and it's been like that for Italy for a while. You remember when they was it the Euros or World Cup now, when Conte had them, and he made a lot of questionable selections. Like, he actually did leave out some borderline, not superstars, but stars, and he chose like true role players. It wasn't that long ago. I forget what competition it was, and they did pretty well. And I think that's always kind of been, well, at least in my generation, a huge part of Italy's identity is, the collective, not the individual.
Yeah, am I right in saying that they weren't in the last World Cup, and neither were the Netherlands?
Correct. And those are two, obviously, historic omissions. But what competition did Conte have them in not too long before that? And they overachieved, especially based on who we picked for the team. I forget.
Yeah, it would have been the Euros, probably.
I think so.
Napoli, what's that? Napoli rejected. Oh no, that's a long old story. Koulibaly.
Oh man, we went through pretty much a colonoscopy with De Laurentiis a few years ago trying to get Koulibaly. De Laurentiis is not someone you want to try and get a player from. That guy is next level polarizing.
Yeah, this is Napoli, isn't it? Yeah, You're not the first person. I remember having Fabrizio on our channel, and we were talking about it, and he said the same thing. He said, like, they're not a club you're going to get a deal out of. They don't need to sell. I don't know why. I don't know whether they're rich or whatever, but he says they don't need to sell, and they won't sell on the cheap either.
Yeah, they're a team that strikes an impressive balance of having some authenticity, but still being in and around, at least competing for the title. Not that they're winning it, but they compete for it. Bonucci. Oh, it's a yellow card. Koulibaly, though, all of a sudden he's lost a step. And that is a player that I think if Napoli were considering selling him, and they must have been considering it at least for a little while, they probably lost Mark a decent chance to make a lot of money on Koulibaly. Let's be real.
Yeah, well, somebody's trying to convince me that United have had a £100 million bid for Koulibaly rejected. We're not living in 2016, so United are stupid, but they're not that stupid, because Koulibaly, you get him for, I think you'd get him for maybe 40 million now, Alex. I don't think he's coming up for 30. I don't think that there's many clubs that would be. No, I mean, in a summer where so many people are looking for centre backs, it's very interesting that nobody's looking at Koulibaly actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't say I'm watching Napoli as much as Chelsea, but I will say he's not the same player he used to be a few years ago. He's not. And when they got Manolas, however you want to pronounce it, Peter Drury pronounced it pretty well that night. Roma surprised Barcelona, but I thought Koulibaly and Manolas would be a great tandem.
There's a few tasty tackles going in now.
A lot of rolling around.
Get Zakaria on. Give him half an hour.
He's a player that a few years ago, Zakaria, there was a lot more like upward trajectory for him. But you know what? If you're a team looking for a DM, you might take a stab at Zakaria, only because I feel like his price should come down. He dealt with a lot of injuries this season. I think he had a bad knee or something. And then when he played, he just wasn't at his previous level. But he's still young, and if he can shake the injury problems, maybe you have something there.
But 3v2. Here we go. Berardi in again. What's he got? Oh, he's been trying to... Yeah, it's gone now. Yeah, he's got 1 year left on his deal, Zakaria, as well. That's why I want him to come on. I don't profess to watch a lot of Mönchengladbach, but he's done it again. Locatelli. That is, wow. I like this is almost a Luke Shaw and a Mason Mount thing going on here, because Locatelli is a player that I sort of said, look, he's a good player. I quite like him, and he could be a breakout player in the tournament. And lo and behold, he's looking that way, because he's definitely the star tonight. And that's a cracking left foot shot from the edge of the box. Locatelli again.
And that was Berardi to Locatelli again, I believe. Not that the pass was anything to write home about. Wow. Safe to say Italy right now, the team in the tournament, and Locatelli's the player of the tournament?
Yeah. He took it off Spinazzola. It's a lovely hit. I know it looks like there's a bit of a deflection, but I don't think the keeper was getting that anyway.
No.
Yeah, everyone's going to be after. The trouble is, also, the funny thing is, he probably will end up at Juventus, so it's irrelevant. But there will be clubs, fans all over Twitter now. Get Locatelli. Arsenal fans, Chelsea. United fans, everybody will be saying get him. But I'm not convinced he's not really a CDM. He's more of a box-to-box left-sided player, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, haven't you seen in this game why you wouldn't want him to be a true holder? You know what I mean? Like, haven't you kind of seen that? I'm not saying he couldn't do it, but would that be getting the best of his ability?
Yeah, he's another player that United have got 3 of, and one doesn't even get picked in Van der Beek. So, but he's good. He's good. He'll stay in Italy. It's like Tonali. I like Tonali. I mean, Tonali's not even in the squad, is he?
The next Pirlo, right? Sandro Tonali. No, he's super young, though.
Yeah, and it doesn't always work out, does it? Not everybody's the next everything, but I think Tonali came from, was it Calgary or Brescia, and then Barella was from the other one.
I think Brescia was Tonali. Yeah, and then, well, don't quote me on that at this point. No, but I think Tonali's still mad young, I believe.
It just shows you the quality Italy have got. A lot of people, I keep an eye, and people have been saying this about Italy for a while, that, they've got a really good set of players, and, they're certainly, the thing about this is as well, the World Cup is so fast on the shoulders of the Euros because of COVID, that the World Cup hits in 18 months. So a team that performs well in the Euros, that's not an old team, really does have the opportunity to take the momentum into the World Cup. Yeah.
No, I mean, we've never really seen anything like this, where it's a lot more connected, and I mean, I hate to, I'm not demeaning the Euros at all. It's a huge tournament, but in ways, like, players could almost view this tournament as an extra tryout for the World Cup in, some ways, because you can't imagine that there's going to be that many managerial changes, Mark, at international level between now and the World Cup. I'm sure there'll be some, but I would think the majority of these managers are going to be the manager for this tournament and the World Cup. So it's a good opportunity for some of these players to really get in with their manager.
Yeah, and for Italy, it might be semi-final, not quite there, but then World Cup in 18 months, you're there. Yeah. And look, if England get out of the group and get knocked out before the quarterfinals, then hopefully Southgate will be gone, and England can really get somebody in with 18 months to get the best out of our attacking talent. But it's going to be in Qatar as well. That's going to be a weird World Cup, the Christmas World Cup, isn't it? It's November to December.
Yeah. Yeah, that's bizarre. That's very bizarre. And by the way, the temperatures that they're going to be playing in. I know it's winter, but the temperatures are going to be really hot. And I'm not tying this back to Christian Eriksen, but it does make me somewhat concerned for some of these players' well-being. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, look, that Christian Eriksen thing was, God, just thank God he's all right. But I suspect something's going to come out about that's not the normal case that we've seen with tragic cases where it's a heart genetic thing. I actually think that there might be another reason for why that's happened, and it could be exhaustion or something like that.
Sure.
Are we in a situation where these players have played so much football in such a short period of time that they're exerting their body so much that something like that can happen? I mean, it might not be. I don't know. We'll find out. But and if that is the case, has Christian Eriksen got a point of saying, look, I know certain players have never played again, and I know I nearly died on a football pitch, but ultimately the heart attack is because of nothing other than just exertion. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a heart specialist, but I think it'd be interesting when it comes out, because there'll be many people who think he shouldn't play again, but there might be.
Yeah, it's very easy for everybody to speculate and say why they think he collapsed and what it was down to. I mean, of course, we hear cardiac arrest and everything, but, listen, I'm fortunate enough every month to do a podcast with Asmir Begovic, who people probably know, goalkeeper, in the Premier League, now in the Championship. And he pretty immediately tweeted that, player welfare is not being even close to prioritized with as many games as they play. So no. I just thought it was interesting, whether Asmir is right in this case or not, it's very much on players' minds. I've spoken to other players as well, how much they're playing. And some of them are, of course, they're going to play every time they're asked to play. A lot of them are wired like that, like a Mason Mount. He's going to play every time you tell him he has a chance to play. But don't you have to protect players from themselves almost?
I think in relation to this game, we might see a few more goals from Italy, by the way. But just coming back to that point, it got to a point with me last season where I was I love to watch United play. And it got to a point where I was like, this is getting ridiculous now. It was like literally 3 games a week for 8 months. And I'm like, even as a fan, there's not enough time in between games to actually analyze and look at performance. And, and I know Ollie said it a lot of times as well. It was just game to game to game to game to game to game. And I think that's why I wouldn't necessarily say it in the case of Chelsea, but you could probably make the point. But remember at the start of the season when everyone was like, oh, this is going to be the best season ever because Villa beat Liverpool and it was really tight at the top. And, ultimately it ended up being the most predictable season ever because the team that's got 2 teams who can rotate just comfortably took it, and that was Man City. Yeah, absolutely. And then you've got teams, I don't need to name names, who just use the same sort of 14, 15 players, gets to the end of the season, and they find that they've got no form.
Yep. Spot on.
Hopefully next season we get back to normality, a season that starts in August, that has the required gaps between games, fans in the ground, and we play ball. I mean, it's been brilliant that we've had the season. And look, I'm not saying that the records that have been made, Man City are the title holders, Chelsea are the Champions League, all those things are valid. But there were aspects of it that I just found a bit odd. I mean, I think United being unbeaten away all season, whilst it's a good record, are you unbeaten away all season when there's no fans in the ground? Liverpool losing their Anfield record when there's no fans in the ground. All right, technically you've lost your record, but would Burnley and everybody else gone and win there if there was a packed out Anfield? I would think not.
There's got to be an asterisk on those type of records because very early on in the season, I stopped paying attention to the home away records for teams. Like it started to mean nothing to me. In fact, I think we were hearing that away teams were doing better, at least for a little while. Maybe I'm mixing up the sports because every sport didn't have fans for a while. But yeah, I mean, that totally lost its, allure. Do you have a good home or away record?
Yeah. Well, we've got half an hour to go here. Locatelli could end up getting his hat-trick. I'll be surprised if Mancini doesn't make any changes, actually. But, yeah, I mean, look, I was speaking about Italy over the weekend and last night and saying, look, they're the pick of the teams for me so far. I don't think it's a glitch. I think that they will remain one of the pick of the teams again in this second round of games as well. It'd be interesting to see what they do against Wales, actually, because Wales with 4 points will go through. Italy with 6 points will go through.
Yeah.
Switzerland, if they beat Turkey, will have 4 points and they will go through. So it could have an impact on who you're playing in second, third. And I don't know. I imagine Italy and Wales will both make changes, but you never know.
Yeah, I think it's a delicate balance. You want to keep some type of continuity and chemistry and rhythm, but if you do win the first 2 games like Italy clearly is going to do, can you rest a player or two? I bet, I'm not sure. Maybe people in the comments know what Chiellini went out with. I haven't looked, but clearly that's probably a good opportunity to also rest Chiellini for this 3rd game as well if you're Italy, and make sure he's extra good moving on. And I guess all this buys time for Verratti and Pellegrini. Once again, I also don't really know the seriousness of their injury, but getting 2 wins right away is really going to help Italy for the long haul. Look how well, by the way, how well did they just, build from the back, get out of pressure from the back?
I said it. Look, I'm no Italian national team connoisseur because I just don't really like international football unless it's tournament football. But I saw it against Turkey. I've seen it again tonight. They're the international Man City of last season, because somebody was saying I don't think they've hardly had any shots on goal in the last 2 games as well. Donnarumma could literally be at home watching Netflix and just leave a not at work sign there. But they moved, like you say, they do move the ball progressively quickly, and they do press the ball quickly. I'm not saying Mancini's Pep, and I'm not saying Italy or Man City, but they certainly have this defensive stability, and then the ability to, really press, break, move the ball quickly. I'm very impressed with them. I definitely think they're the most attractive team on the eye of the tournament so far. Yeah,
and you know what? They really haven't skipped a beat with Chiellini coming out and Acerbi coming in. They're still building out from the back just as fluidly, honestly. And this is a very simplistic way to analyze something, but their team kind of makes sense, if you know what I mean, Mark. Like, they have 2 classic center backs, especially when Chiellini and Bonucci are in there together. We've spoken about Spinazzola. Di Florenzi, I believe, at right back. He's playing well. Their midfield has balance. And then think about their front 3. Could it be any more stereotypical? Berardi, classic right winger, right? Loves to cut in on his left. And he plays the right wing so consistently. Immobile, classic striker. Lorenzo Insigne, classic left winger. The team makes a lot of sense. Doesn't always mean you're going to do well, but there's a great balance to Italy's team.
Yeah, I wasn't big on Berardi, but I've got to say I've really, really liked him today. I think he's strong, he's quick, he's got a good balance, he's intelligent. He was the player I probably didn't know the most about, and I think he's been very impressive. And I think Wales probably need to be a little bit careful, because if Italy decide to make changes, well, good save by Donnarumma. He was forced into action there and again. And see, they've got a very good goalkeeper as well when he actually has to do something.
Could be Ramos's new teammate at PSG. Donnarumma.
Yeah, I forgot about the Donnarumma thing. Yeah, but no, yeah, I think if Wales decide to make changes, they might want to be a little bit careful, because if Italy make changes, they've got a wealth of talent to bring in, the likes of Bernardeschi and Chiesa and Belotti and maybe Pellegrini, Verratti, Bastoni. They've got some really good players that you would imagine, the way that Mancini set them up, I would imagine they bit like the centre-back change, it's been seamless. And when that's the great thing, when you've got a manager who's got a very identifiable way of playing, you'll find that players just drop into that system as well. So, and those players will also be hungry to get involved. So it might not be a walk in the park for Wales. They could find themselves on the end of a beating if they make changes themselves.
Well, Mark, that's what makes your comparison to City actually even more apt, because what's been so impressive about City is their inter-squad competition. So even when they do change a few players, those players are fighting with each other to earn extra minutes. And we might even have that with this Italy squad. So yeah, that comparison is actually holding up the more I think about it.
And there was Berardi just cutting in on his left foot and shooting over the bar. There is a Romano tweet. He's been busy tonight. He says, Manuel Locatelli has been one of the best Serie A midfielders so far. Not surprising to see him starring at the Euros. Sassuolo always asked €40 million to sell him before this match. Premier League top clubs interested. Allegri wants him at Juventus. Open race. Well, Juventus it is, Alex. In my experience, Italian players, they like to stay in Italy. There's not many exceptions. I mean, Verratti's probably one of the prime examples, really.
But I just think it makes too much sense. Like, don't Juve also need to refresh their midfield a bit? I think they do, absolutely. I mean, long gone are the days of Pirlo, Vidal, Marquisio, and Pogba together. But I think that's just such a logical transfer for Locatelli.
I always really liked Bentancur at Juve, but I don't know whether he's now surplus to requirements, or he's not really kicked on, because he was quite young when I used to. Well, I say quite young. As I said, I didn't really watch Serie A last season, but I've always liked Bentancur.
Yeah, Bentancur. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good player. Good player as well.
And he's probably that sort of player that could play the deeper role. Although, is he more box to box, actually, when I think about it?
Maybe optimally, I think that's probably where he shines the best. But, I think you can have good balance if you had Bentancur and Locatelli and someone else.
But this is the important you were on about Declan Rice. It's like, it's the whole Souček or Rice thing, or, we talk about these players, Locatelli and that, but as a United fan, we need a specialist centre defensive midfielder. And all these players we mentioned, whilst very good, they're not that, a box-to-box player is not a centre defensive midfielder. It is somebody who literally sits there and defends the back four and allows everything to go in front of them. And, he hasn't brought him on. Zakaria is not going to get any time. Get him on, because he's a player who can sit there and do that.
Yeah. Well, like I was saying,
he must just not be fit.
Yeah, Zakaria. I mean, I don't know, but Zakaria was having a stop and start season, I think, the whole time with his injuries, which is a shame for him. But, honestly, the way Italy are just playing such a fluid brand of football, it just looks like they're just 2 steps ahead of their opponent right now. Which is super impressive for Mancini. I'm getting a lot of respect for Mancini. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, Mark, but, he really has kind of put in the whole ideology of, no one individual is bigger than the team so far.
And some managers just suit international football. I think if I was a manager, a lot of people always mention Mourinho as an international manager. I think if I was an international manager, I wouldn't fancy international football because and I've heard managers say this, the gaps between are too big. And then, even when you do get them together, you might get the sort of Ryan Giggs effect where managers are like, no, you're not, you're injured and this, that, and the other. So can you sync, Mark? Yeah, we're just about to hit 5 seconds away from 68 minutes. So we're just 58, 59, 68 minutes now. Maybe Mancini just suits international football.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there are characteristics that will make a manager more, appropriate for one or the other. It's just such a different schedule, too. I mean, like think about Southgate, and I don't really rate him all that much, but his job is so much different than a club manager, where I'm sure you've seen, a United game, maybe like United are playing Liverpool, right? And the camera pans up and there's Southgate watching, and he's kind of almost having to serve as a scout. But, they're just doing so much different stuff on a day-to-day basis than a club manager. So can't be equal for all. Then again, I think some managers are so great they could be good for either. I think, wait, did I misinterpret? Would you think Mourinho at this point would be more appropriate for international football?
I think a lot of people just think Mourinho would be a good international coach, but I'm not so sure that he would fancy that. Maybe in 10 years when, Harold's Mourinho now, he must still only be in his 50s, but yeah, I think Mourinho wants. Yeah, I think Mourinho has got no intention of retiring. I think he's almost retired himself with his inability to adapt to the modern football game. And maybe Roma will suit him really well, because if there's a league in the world that still has those, might be a little bit slower, a little bit more pragmatic. It'd be interesting to see what he does there. But no, I don't think Mourinho would necessarily suit international football. But also, it depends on what country you're managing, because the English coach, unless it's the Euros or the World Cup, there's not a massive amount of interest. And there's not the international break is seen as a hindrance. Whereas because we have international viewers on here, and I'm sure you do on your podcast, you will get a lot of people who aren't English going, I love international football. We're very proud of our international football. And I would imagine, although I'm not Italian, I would imagine Italy is one of those countries where their national team is very important to them. which then makes the job very different to what it is for a country where England, where we demand we do well, but do we really want it when the Premier League's on? No, we don't.
Right. Well, I think you make a great point, and I also think like Italy doing really well right now is really great for Serie A, but I don't think you can always make that parallel. Like, I don't think always the country doing well will have then a great representation on the league that has the most players from. But in this case, like, I think, first of all, Italy doing well is great for the Euros right now, obviously, because, you know, so many Italians who are going to be following this, but so many of these guys are Serie A players as well. And I think even their clubs are like, great, the values of all of our guys are going up, up, up. That's just what happens, whether it's wrong or right.
Rafael Varane is renewing his contract. Let me have a look at this.
What's happening in this stream, Mark?
I know. It's mad. So this is coming from, he's a very reliable source. It's at Jose Felix Diaz from Marca. Varane will renew his contract with Real Madrid.
Well, that was the domino effect, huh?
Yeah.
Oof.
Which is disappointing because I never expected Manchester United to get him anyway, but that is a disappointment for any club that was looking to get hold of him.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I don't think Chelsea need a center back how they're currently constituted, but he was one of the guys I would have broke a rule for.
Are Chelsea looking for a centre back?
Stupidly, I guess they're interested just because Silva's going to have one more year. Obviously, he's, you know, up there in age. Rudiger, it was amazing, obviously, but, you know, he's in a bit of a contract scuffle with Chelsea right now. He's holding out to be a much higher paid player at Chelsea, and just in general, he's technically got one more big move in him. His contract's running down. Christensen as well, who kind of got reborn under Tuchel. His contract's running down. So they are looking, and I just don't think it's a huge need. I really, really don't, especially if they play a back three, Mark. And if you're going to get Hakimi, then you put him at right wing back. Now Reece James is the right center back. You really shouldn't be splashing on a center back. But I like Varane a lot. So if it had been Varane.
I mean, look, it looks like it's going to happen now. And to be honest, it was probably quite logical. I mean, if Ramos goes, they've got to probably find that money. But to be honest, this is why you can never trust the world of football, because all we've heard about, and this happened with Ramos a few years ago with United. I think it was 5 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago now. Big reports from Spain that Ramos was ready to leave Real Madrid and United wanted him, and then he signed a new contract. And what we've heard with Varane is he wants a new challenge. He's ready to go. He's going to go. And then, oh, I'm staying now. And I wonder why he's staying now, because Madrid have gone, there's the money. And he's gone, yeah, that's what I wanted.
A lot of posturing in this game, isn't there? And there's a lot of, you know, motives, in obviously motives that we're not privy to, you know, even reports. Like, I think fans have to remember that there could be a report saying a player's not happy at a club, and it's not even true, but it's just put out there so the player gains leverage to get a better deal. So yeah, it's really tough, especially with Real Madrid. I mean, you know, that's just a reality show in general. So wait, was Ramos to United like a fax machine faux pas?
No, it was De Gea to Madrid.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that is a fun. That is literally like that deal was. He was gone. Like nobody thought he was going to stay. It was like you almost, and when it fell apart, you almost thought David De Gea was going to sort of throw his toys out the pram because he really wanted that move. And
right.
Yeah, it was.
That's too funny.
Some last minute mess up there. He really should have gone to Madrid. And I wonder if he looks at it and thinks, "I wish I had," because he'd sort of done everything at United at that point, and he's not established himself as the Spanish number one. And you know, to be so close to being Real Madrid's number one as a Spanish player is, yeah.
I love a good game of what if, and that's a big game of what if right there. I knew it was a Spaniard in United and Real Madrid, but okay, De Gea, not Ramos. Fair enough.
United were very close to getting Ronaldinho.
Well, that would have been special. That's got to be one of the most unanimous players that like every fan base just absolutely adores, Ronaldinho.
Yeah, he would have been a good one. Immobile missing a chance there. Here comes off Shaqiri. Still not brought. He's not going to bring. He's not going to bring Zakaria on. He's just not going to bring him on.
Yeah, it's a tough one when you're up 2, or you're down 2 as well, bringing in a player like Zakaria. But I guess there could be an argument for it. Put Ricardo Rodriguez further forward at this point.
Still time if they could get a goal back, but they've been disappointing in Switzerland actually today.
Yeah, they have. And once again, because Italy are so good, you don't really know how to properly analyze Switzerland right now. You know Turkey's garbage after earlier today, but Switzerland should be better than Turkey.
If you're watching, please subscribe, by the way, bottom right-hand corner. I've not said that for a long time. Bottom right-hand corner to subscribe. We're on the road to 430k. We've had 3 watch-alongs today and really enjoyed it, and we'll be back tomorrow with 3 more. So make sure you subscribe and keep tuning in on That's Football. What's your talking about international football? What World Cup coming up in about 18 months? The American side. What can you tell us about that? I mean, are they? Lots of people seem to be quite excited by it. Is this a false dawn? Could they actually make an impact on a tournament? Not win it, but You
know what? I think when you get to this point, I mean, I wouldn't even say I religiously follow them, but obviously I follow them just because it's almost impossible not to when you live here and you follow the sport anyway. But you get really nervous about buying in too much, Mark, because, I mean, you started to almost buy in a couple of years ago, not fully buy in, and then, you don't go to the World Cup, and, they've disappointed you a lot. But I will say this has got to be maybe the most promising time, at least that I've been alive for, because you start to pile up a lot of names, and names don't win you anything. But you're starting to have
doesn't it?
Absolutely, and you're starting to have it in more than one position. Like it's not just Pulisic and then Giovanni Reina, who could be like very similar players, right? They both have been at Dortmund. Like it's not just that where it's all in one spot. You have Serginho Dest, you have Weston McKennie. Like you're starting to get a bit more of a team. Anthony Robinson, who I like, who played left back for Fulham this season. I'm biased; he's also been on my show, but still, I mean, like you're having younger players who are in a different position. With that said, don't rank the manager at all. So it's going to have to be player-centric. But
a bit like
listen,
Southgate, yeah.
That game against, exactly. No, it's actually a great comp. The game against Mexico in that CONCACAF final was unreal entertainment. It was just awful football, but it was unreal entertainment.
What was the score in that? I mean, total ignorance.
I think it was 3-2, and it was just a game. I think so. And Pulisic, he did get the game-winning pen, great pen, but it was just a game of, awful football, but scrums, streakers on the pitch, that iconic Pulisic photo once he did score and, took a shirt. It just had everything except good football. But Mexico and I'm sorry, it had chants from the Mexican crowd towards the United States players, towards the goalkeeper, who was a hero in that game, who I wasn't even that familiar with up until that game. And they stopped the game because of the chants. Like it had everything except for good football. But I don't know. Last thing on the U.S. men's national team, a huge reason, Mark, why I don't gravitate towards them is I just love the authenticity of this sport. So when I even watch a bad game in England, right, like two not great sides, I can feel, especially, if fans are in the stadium, the atmosphere. And a lot of the time I can't feel that when I'm watching an MLS game or just the U.S. men's national team in general. But that night, Mexico, United States, there was an atmosphere to it. So I enjoyed it. But it lacks a lot atmosphere comparatively.
Barella was just down injured there with 10 minutes to go, but it looks like it's going to be all right. It looked quite nasty, actually. He had his foot on his toes and he sort of got kicked on the ankle, which, sent it the other way. But Mbolo got booked for it, but Barella's up on his feet, so it looks like he's all right. Yeah, I mean, it's a long way away from just having Patrick Dempsey or, even further back than that, Alexi Lalas and Kobe Jones. I mean, you might not remember that yourself, 94 World Cup. But,
I honestly think Tim Howard probably deserves more respect for being an American player just because he lasted in the Premier League for, a good amount of time. But it was always so discombobulated. Like there was, you always had a couple players in the mix, but Mark, I mean, I don't think people think about it like this. The Premier League helps U.S. men's national team. If you think about it like that, like I can't speak for every United States football fan, but they watch the Premier League probably at this point more than the MLS. And it makes them then want to play the sport. So, the more the Premier League, and Pulisic's huge in it, but the more the Premier League just gets more popular. Even a video game like FIFA, I know it sounds really simplistic. It will help football in the United States. It absolutely will. Just take a little bit of time.
I think it's about time there was another World Cup there, to be honest. I mean, I was just gutted England didn't get to play in it because we had Graham Taylor in charge and we totally and utterly messed up the qualification. But I remember watching that tournament as a young schoolboy, and I was like, it had something to it, and I think it'd be nice to have that again. But I don't know what the sort of next World Cups are. I mean, this next one in Qatar is, as we were talking about in the first half, is just is an oddity about money, really.
Yeah, that's why I have no faith that these World Cups will ever go to the right place. I mean, the whole process and how these places are selected, it just screams of corruption to me.
10 minutes to go. Switzerland trying to push forward to get something going, but they just can't break down that Italian defence, which we've said many times before over the years.
If you were to take a player off the Italian team and you had to buy them at like a fair price, you can't just say Locatelli for £1. Who would you take and put on United?
It's interesting because Man United need a centre-back, a CDM and a right winger. Well, we're going to get Jadon Sancho, so I don't need Berardi. Right. It would have to be one of their midfielders. And then it's just about, do you take Jorginho, like I was talking about in the first half, just to do that job? Or do you take Locatelli or Barella and sort of gamble on them being able to do that sort of pivot role with what we've already got? As amazing as it sounds, I probably would the boring choice would be Jorginho because I know he can do a job that nobody else can do. Mm-hmm. I like Locatelli, but would he solve our problem of a sort of CDM? And I don't know whether he would do that. And could you play Locatelli and Pogba together? I don't know that you'd have the discipline there. I don't know.
I thought Pogba was absolutely fantastic for France. Fantastic.
Apparently, 2026 is the America for the World Cup. There you go. Well, we look forward to that then. USA have got it with Mexico and Canada. Well, I look forward to that.
I knew that. I did know that.
But I should know it as much as you should know it. Oh, Immobile. Good save, keeper. I think it's a foul anyway.
I interviewed Asmir Begovic earlier this week, which I do once a month, and he was a teammate of Donnarumma last season. He went to Milan in the middle of the season with Zlatan, Asmir did, which no one really remembers because it was all about Zlatan. And he was back up to Donnarumma, and he just said, what a player. I mean, from a goalkeeping perspective.
Still very young as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's the thing. He was on the scene at like 16, Donnarumma. So he's still in his early 20s.
And his brother's there as a goalkeeper as well, isn't he?
Yeah. And he said he spoke pretty decent English too.
What's Begovic doing now then? Is he retired or?
No, in fact, I mean, Bournemouth almost got promoted. I think they went to the semifinal in the championship playoff, and he was one of their best players. So he almost got promoted to the Premier League. He was their player this season, I believe, Begovic. So, I mean, hey, Chelsea need a backup keeper because surely Kepa's going to go. Maybe Begovic is too past it for that, but backup keepers can be old, man. They can be very old.
Well, 5 minutes to go. Italy, I mean, they've not stopped, to be honest. They've certainly not sat back. They've had a lot of breaks, and it's obviously something that Mancini pumps into them. This is the way we play, and this is the way we play for 90 minutes. Headed away there. Italy will want another clean sheet, that's for sure.
Switzerland could score. My prediction would be right, but you might be right here.
Yes. Well, I needed that because I predicted Turkey were going to beat Wales 2-0. So this will be retribution. But no, I mean, I would have gone 2-1 if you hadn't gone 2-1. I did think that Switzerland would offer more. And, at the end of the day, is that because Italy have been so good? Probably. I think I look forward to seeing Italy taking on a Belgium or a France or a Portugal or an England or a Spain.
Absolutely. Spain are so disappointing. I think Spain are just really just not at all. I mean, it's more factual. They're not the Spain that really any of us are used to, but that's just got to be a cramp, right?
Well, the fact that they've got Morata up front, which goes back to what I just seem to be saying all the time in this tournament, is that if there's a few teams that just don't have strikers, and if you haven't got strikers, you're going to struggle to score goals.
Is that why Belgium, I want to get your take. I know people will look at Belgium and they'll see Eden Hazard not even close to what he used to be, and De Bruyne should be, but he had the facial injury, of course. But for me, Lukaku is a heck of a lot better than even the last time Belgium played together. And he was good then. He's always scored, but now he's a great player who can almost carry a team at times. And they have Courtois in net. So, that's why I think Belgium can still be really good, because they have that guy. They have that guy in Lukaku. So even if one of Hazard and De Bruyne shows up, they can make a lot of noise.
Well, it's like you can have a really good team, can't you? That doesn't have a striker, or you can have an okay team that's got a really good striker. And I'd take the striker, because the striker's going to score you the goals. I mean, Spain, I don't think are a bad side, but you got Morata up front.
Right. With that said, though, Poland's not good enough, right? Where Lewandowski can overcompensate.
Poland are always a massive disappointment. I don't remember Poland doing well in a major tournament for a long time, and although maybe people, Skriniar is Slovakian, isn't he? Hamsik is there as well. So maybe the name isn't fashionable in relation to in world football, but they probably have got a better team. In fairness,
actually, that's so true. When I hear Slovakia, I don't think of anybody. But then when you say Skriniar and Hamsik, I'm like, okay, fair play, good players, just within their league.
And look, I watched Hungary-Portugal last night, and Portugal is awash with players we know and their bench as well, and Hungary is awash with players I barely know. And yet, for 80 minutes, they pass the ball about. They work hard. They're organised. Gone are the days of international football being about 6 or 7 teams, and the rest of them are just there to be sort of stuffed.
I had a tweet on Portugal that I just meant in a very cheeky manner, but it did trigger a lot of your fan base, and hopefully people know that I was just bored and wanted to have some fun. But I said that Portugal reminded me of United in that game, where it really, in my opinion, should have been doing a lot better.
Oh, it's a goal. Sorry to interrupt, Alex. No. It's Immobile from the edge of the box, and I don't know whether it's a keeping error, but it's another long shot from distance. And it's another 3-0 win for Italy. It takes away my score prediction as well. But, I mean, we should a keeper be being beaten from here. But it's a lovely hit from Immobile. I think that's his second goal of the tournament. Did he not score in the first game as well? So he's up there in the Golden Boot stakes as well. Come on, play the replay. Let's have a look.
It's a +6 on goal differential right now for Italy.
This is the refreshing thing about Italy. The clean sheets are there, but they're also knocking in goals at the other end. But a keeper probably should do better than there.
I mean,
he's at full strength. Is it is it a full stretch? Stronger hand pop. Maybe, but it's a good shot.
It's a good shot. Yep.
Yeah. 3 great goals, as somebody in the live comments just said there. 3 great goals, says West AK.
Could this go any better for them? I mean, think about it. They have Locatelli absolutely putting on a masterclass. Berardi was big in the first goal. Immobile gets his goal. And how important is it for the striker to get the goal at the end, right? So he can continue his momentum. And they get a clean sheet. Well, I don't want to jinx it, but they should get a clean sheet as well.
Josh says, do you think Italy will do well? They'll do as well as the tournament allows them to, mate. I mean, look, if they keep playing teams like this, they'd win it. But they're going to have to play, a Germany, a France, a Belgium. And that, when you play those, we saw it last night. I actually think for Germany had a very good game. But, when you're playing against teams like France, you're not going to turn up and win 3-0, really. So they're a contender. I think that's as good as it is. I don't feel, as Alex was saying there, I don't feel Spain's a contender. I think you can write clubs off. I'd certainly rule Italy in as a contender, and there will only probably be 3 or 4 contenders. So yeah, I can see them in the semi-finals, definitely.
I'll be simplistic, Mark. When you have a spine of your team, when the spine of your team is good, you can go a long way. Donnarumma, Chiellini, Bonucci, that midfield, and Immobile. You can go far with a good spine. You really, really can.
They might get 4 here. Players they've got coming off the bench as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, Alex. It's been a joy because it's always voice when we do podcasts. So to be able to visually have a chat is fantastic.
Yeah, I've incorporated video back into my life anyway. So next time you're on, which will be probably next time Chelsea play United, we'll turn the cameras on as well. But yeah, it's been great. Actually, I think I was on your channel once before. It was years ago. I was sick as a dog. And it's good to be back on a little bit more healthy. But
well, this is about the Euros, but to be fair, with the Premier League stuff, we've sort of enjoyed the way we've done these Euros, and we're definitely looking to do this more around the Premier League next season. So, you as a Chelsea fan, I think you've got an interesting season to come, an interesting transfer window to come as well. I mean, look, if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be very excited. I mean, to be honest, if I was a fan of a lot of clubs in the Premier League, I'd be very excited because our transfer policy is crap. But yeah, what you're going to do about the striker situation, I think, is interesting more than Chelsea fans because we all know what Chelsea are capable of. And United can spend a year and a half negotiating with Sancho. I think Chelsea, Dortmund could say Haaland's not for sale, and Chelsea could have that deal done in a couple of weeks and say, name your price, let's tango. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with that.
Yeah, we're more tied together than probably people realize. I mean, both teams want a Dortmund player. Both teams want Declan Rice. I'm sure there are honestly more even players that both teams are looking at. Not to say that we're constituted exactly the same, but yeah, it should be an interesting transfer window for both of us. And I still think there's a decent chance Dortmund lose a player to you and a player to us. I really do.
Yeah. I think if it was United trying to get Haaland, they'd just shut the door. But Chelsea have just got that way of going, look, what's it going to take? And Haaland will go, and Riola will go, yeah, let's do it.
Well, say what you will about Roman. And, I always am cautious, Mark, to tout any owner too much, because, you get that rich. I mean, it's going to be cobwebs in your closet. Let's be real. But from a footballing perspective, it's nice to have an owner like him when I do look at Arsenal, you guys, and other teams.
Well, that's the final whistle. It's another 3-0 win for Italy. It's another impressive win for Italy. And it's another enjoyable watch, even if you're not Italian, because they've been, for me, again, the standout team in the tournament for the second time in a row. And I actually look forward to watching them play Wales on Sunday because I look forward to seeing the rotation that he's probably going to use and see if they still play the same way. And they will have, I think, as winners of the group, they will play second place in the, I can't remember what group it is now. It might be the Finland group or something like that, which again, you'd fancy them for. But look, massive pleasure having Alex on. Really, really, really grateful for you popping on, mate. And hopefully we'll be able to get you on again soon.
I'd love that, Mark. Thanks so much. And I just want to say, I mean, we always banter rivals from time to time, but, in my opinion, you're really the best doing what you specifically do. So just keep it up. It's awesome to at least be able to appreciate you when our teams aren't playing each other.
And you can check Alex out on the Byline podcast or on, is it Alex Goldberg at Alex Goldberg on Twitter?
Yeah, there's an underscore after it, but that doesn't really matter because you'll find me if you just type my name. Yeah.
Loads of fantastic guests on there as well, like too many to mention, but he was mentioned Begovic there, Chelsea youth players, Chelsea players sometimes, and all sorts of people on there. So well connected and a really good podcast. Thanks everyone for watching as well. Most importantly, the live chat. We will be back tomorrow. 3 games tomorrow. I forget what they are, but I know Holland tomorrow night. I think it's Holland tomorrow night I'm doing. So I will be there for that. Thanks everyone for watching. Big up. Good day. Italy are fantastic. And we'll speak to you tomorrow.